So this morning I'd like to look at a Jataka tale as we continue our path through the Jatakas. Uh, uh, it's sometimes almost stunning how things can arise that fit perfectly with what's going on. The Jataka tale I'd like to share with you today is the brave little parrot Jataka. Uh, it's a story I've told for many, many years, and it's stunning how much uh, the vision of this story is needed in our world today. This week seems especially dire. With all that's happening, well, everywhere, but the Mideast especially. So let's take a look at the brave little parrot. Long ago, a little gray parrot dwelt in a green forest. One day, dark clouds gathered, lightning flashed, thunder crashed, and a dead tree struck by lightning burst into flames. The wind began to blow and sparks began leaping from tree to tree. "Fire!" called the little parrot, smelling the smoke. "Fire! Run! Run to the river!" Flapping her wings, she flew towards the safety of the river shore. After all, she was a bird and could fly away. But as she flew, she saw below her many of the forest's great trees wreathed in flame. She saw many animals trapped by the fire with no way to escape. Suddenly, a desperate idea, a way to save them, came to her. Darting to the river, she called to the animals gathered safely there. "Elephants, please fill your trunks with water to spray on the flames. The rest of us can dip our bodies in the water and carry water in cupped leaves. Working together, there's still a chance we can save our forest and friends." But the animals huddling on the shore moaned, "It's too late. There's nothing we could do now, little parrot." "It's true," coughed the cheetah. "Fast as I am, the flames are faster. And powerful as we are," trumpeted the elephants, "we can't charge through fire. It's hopeless." The animals agreed. But the little parrot saw a way. Soaking her feathers in the cool water and filling a cupped leaf, she flew back over the burning forest. Flames leapt at her. Fierce heat struck. Thick smoke coiled. Walls of fire shot up, now on one side, now on the other. But twisting and turning through the mad maze of fire, the little parrot flew on. At last, when she was over the heart of the burning forest, the little parrot shook her wings. The few drops of water that still clung to her feathers tumbled down like jewels. She poured the water from her leaf cup. The drops of water vanished with a hiss. Then the little parrot flew back to the river. Once more she dipped her body and wings in the cool water and filled another leaf cup. "Stay with us, little parrot," pleaded the gentle deer. "Don't go back into that fire." "Yes, stay," roared the mighty tiger. "A few drops of water can't save a burning forest." "It's too late," cried all the animals. "Stay and be safe with us here on the river's other shore." "But it might be possible," panted the little parrot, "so I'll try." And once again she flew back over the burning forest, shook her wings, poured out her cup, and let those few glittering drops of water fall. Hiss! Back and forth the little parrot flew, from the river to the forest, from the forest to the river. Her eyes turned red as coals. Her feathers were charred. Her claws cracked from the heat. She coughed and choked. But still the little parrot flew bravely on. Now at this time, some of the carefree goddesses and gods happened to be drifting by high overhead. They were laughing and talking in their palace of sunlit clouds, eating honeyed foods and sipping sweet wines. One of them happened to glance down and saw the little parrot flying far below. "Look," he called, "look at that foolish bird, trying to put out a raging forest fire with a few sprinkles of water." "Ridiculous," snorted one. "Impossible," laughed another. "Can't you see it won't work?" exclaimed the first god. Putting down his golden bowl and silver cup, he took on the shape of a golden eagle. Flapping his broad wings once, twice, 3 times, he dove down towards the little parrot. As the little parrot again flew towards the forest's fiery heart, the eagle appeared by her side. "Turn back, little bird," said the eagle in a commanding and majestic voice. "A few drops of water can't save a forest. Turn back now and save yourself before it's too late." But the little parrot didn't turn back. "Great eagle," she coughed, "I don't need advice. I need help." And on she flew. The great eagle was stunned. Each instant the heat grew fiercer. He flapped his great wings and rose up into the cooler air high above. Far below him he saw the little parrot flying bravely on. Above him he saw the gods and goddesses laughing and talking, eating and drinking, as the forest burned. And for the first time in his almost endless life, that god felt ashamed. "We're gods. After all," he exclaimed, "we should do something." All at once the great eagle began to weep. Tears fell from his eyes, fell in torrents, sheet after sheet, like cooling rain upon the fire, upon the forest, upon the animals, and upon the brave little parrot. And what was this? Wherever those tears fell, the flames went out. Glistening tears dripped from burnt branches and soaked into scorched earth. The wind died down. The forest became quiet and still. Then, wherever those tears touched, new life burst forth. Green grass pushed up from among still glowing cinders. Blossoms opened, leaves unfurled. New feathers now grew on the little parrot, too. Feathers red as flame, green as leaves, yellow as sunlight, blue as a river. Such perfect colors. Such a pretty bird. "The fire is out," called the little parrot in her joy. "Look, our danger is past." The animals looked at one another in amazement. Washed by those tears, they were whole and well. Not one was harmed. "Hooray!" cried the animals. "Hooray for the brave little parrot and for this sudden miraculous rain." Overhead in the now clear blue sky, their friend the little parrot looped and soared in delight. She had done all she could, and somehow it had saved them. So that's a version of the brave little parrot. We'll begin with take a comfortable position. Remember to let a Teisho just come in the way the wind blows through the trees. Nothing to ponder over. Don't get caught up in thinking about it. Just hear it. Just experience it. Like sounds. Let it sink in its own way. So here's a quote from Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce. "Lead kindly, fowl. They always did. Ask the ages. What bird has done yesterday, man may do next year. Be it fly, be it molt, be it hatch, be it agreement in the nest." James Joyce, Finnegan's Wake. In our own time and our own lives, we have the good fortune to enter the dream of the Buddha and walk with him along the ancient way of practice realization. We work at it in the Zendo and Doksan room, and we work on it, integrating practice realization and its embodiment in the day-to-day events of our daily lives. The Buddha faced choices and challenges in his many lifetime journey toward full Buddhahood. The challenges he faced arose out of his vow to realize the way for the benefit of all. Challenges, mistakes, and the correcting of mistakes are how vows become real. For vows to be real, they must be tested. A Zen saying reminds us, for gold to become pure, it must enter the fire. The Buddha, we learn from the Jatakas, which he himself, tradition holds, told to his Sangha, wasn't always the serene guy on the altar, his work done, his trials behind him. For countless lifetimes, he walked the walk and did the work that we're doing now. We honor him by doing this work ourselves in our lives today. As Dogen says, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the past were like us. In the future, we will become Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The brave parrot Jataka embodies the core vow of Zen, indeed of all Mahayana or Great Way Buddhism, the vow to save the countless as yet unenlightened many beings. As such, it is the first of the four great vows for all, known to all aspiring Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, past, present, future. The three remaining vows are the actualization of this first: to release attachment to the arising of self-centered greed, anger, and ignorance in our own minds, to enter the countless Dharma gates, and to fully embody the selfless way of the Buddha. At the beginning of the story, the little parrot is happy to have the gift of flight, but she is even happier at the end, having used her gift not just for her own pleasure, but for the high purpose of saving others. This is why she loops and soars with delight. Her great vow has become that much more real. It is no longer off in some distant, one day I'll do that, future, but has been actualized and embodied in the right now present. Much of the time we hold the great vow at arm's length, thinking one day I'll understand what that's about, or one day when I'm enlightened, I'll do that, all of which makes the vow remote. The second of the four great vows, or great vows for all, tells us how to actually accomplish the first, how to do it now. Greed, hatred, and ignorance arise endlessly. I vow to abandon them. Or, another translation goes, endless blind passions I vow to uproot. In other words, to free others, we must first do the work that frees ourselves every day. If we are trapped in a deep well, we can't help anyone else until we get out. Greed, hatred, and ignorance arise in our minds. If we build a self on them, we're trapped. If we do not attach to them, do not build our nest there, then these ancient habitual defensive aggressive arisings can come and go like a wind that for a time makes the tree branches rattle and groan. As we become free of our own inner limitations, Blake's mind-forged manacles, we simultaneously free others from what we no longer project onto them. To be free of ourselves is to free others from ourselves, from the burden of having to bear and bear with our own needs, desires, and expectations. To free others is to simultaneously diminish our own fascination with the experience of isolated egotism. What is around us enters us, and as Dogen says, confirms us, and is deeply, intimately interesting. The two go hand in hand. Our work lies here. It can be taken up where we are, as we are. The vow need not remain a distant ideal. Each day we do our best to dip in the river and fly back with a few drops of water for our burning world. The text for the brave little parrot Jataka remains elusive. It exists as a few lines of verse in the brief Jataka Stava, or verses in praise of the Buddha's former lives, a short Scythian Khotanese work from just prior to 1000 AD that was among the cache of texts uncovered in the Buddhist cave grottos of Dunhuang, China. It is not in either the Pali Jataka or the Sanskrit Jataka Mala, though Jataka number 35 in the Pali collection of 547 about a quail who stops a forest fire with an act of truth has been seen as a variant of the parrot story. An original may exist as a carving at the great Buddhist monument of Borobudur or in a painting at the Ajanta caves. whether it exists as text or visual art, the ending of that original story, while similar, everyone's saved and the forest is restored, is more austere than the version I use. In the original tale, the god, moved by the parrot's heroism, doesn't burst into tears. Instead, he squeezes a cloud, causing rain to fall. I created the god's tears 40 years ago in my own work, at first telling this tale, and the parrot's feathers are not mentioned in the original. That is, and the color of the parrot's feathers are not mentioned in the original. Are they gray, multicolored? Never mind. The point with the colors is that deeds make us who we are. Decisions, karma, are who we are. They make us as we are. Beautiful, that is, selfless deeds, which by their nature are courageous and wise, make us beautiful. There is a truth that is not fact. It is myth, something that from a certain perspective can be greater than fact. Myth never was, but always is. Fact recounts what happens at one time in one place. Myth ideally reveals the archetype, that is, what might happen in all times, all places, to all people. Literalists hew to fact. While literally accurate, they may still create a truncated story. Additionally, years ago in telling this tale, at one point I decided to make the little parrot female. Is she so in the original? No, he is not. Does that make the version with a heroine untrue? Stories must find their relevance to every generation or they wither and fade. The feminine is reawakening in our time. The Jatakas are often, though not exclusively, patriarchal in their commitments. There are wise women, enlightened nuns, and true wives and queens throughout the tales, but rarely, if ever, does the Buddha appear in a past life as a female. Maybe this is true. Maybe this is how karma works. A man is a man is a man. Or maybe monastic forms led to suppression of a greater truth. In the Jatakas, the Buddha could be a crow in a graveyard, a mongrel dog or a monkey, but never a woman? Really? I thought it was time to give our grand old tradition a nudge. Hence the emergence, peck, peck, peck from its overly literal shell of the brave lady parrot. Dogen writes in Receiving the Marrow in Shobogenzo section number 9, why are men special? Emptiness is emptiness. 4 great elements are 4 great elements. 5 skandhas, that is the bundles, of our tendencies, of our thoughts, of our emotions. 5 skandhas are 5 skandhas. Women are just like that. Both men and women attain the way. You should honor attainment of the way. Do not discriminate between men and women. This is the most wondrous principle of the Buddha way. Finally, there are no cheetahs, elephants, or tigers in the original either. They came into the story when a publisher asked me to do a children's version of the Jataka. Once that version was done, however, I liked the animals enough to keep them. So here they are in this retelling. Each of us has our own special gifts, Bob Dylan sang in John Wesley Harding's Dear Landlord. And you know this is meant to be true. And if you don't underestimate me, I won't underestimate you. The cheetah's gift is speed, the elephant's strength, the deer gentleness, and the tiger ferocious power. The parrot is clearly not the swiftest or the strongest, nor the gentlest or mightiest. Her gift is to be able to fly. In the end, her little gift has tremendous and unforeseen effects. Flight is simply an opportunity. From above, she can attain an encompassing view, one that connects heaven and earth. Looking down from on high, she sees how bad things are in her forest home below. Expanded vision, not just quick travel, is perhaps the real gift of flight. The first iconic photo of the Earth from the moon changed us all deeply, awakening us to what had actually always been. Let's not underestimate our gifts. We work with what we have, who we are. It's nice to be happy with who we are and as we are, settled there without needing to envy others, thinking, if only I was braver or smarter or more beautiful or richer, then I'd be happy. Sometimes it can take quite a while before we can acknowledge I'm okay, just as I am, all the way down. Maybe especially all the way down. If we look deeply enough, we can all find water at the bottom of what might at first have seemed like a very dry well. Roshi Kapleau discovered that, and it changed his life. You can read about it in the 3 Pillars of Zen. Aitken Roshi makes the point in his writings that being able to get hold of the fact that each of us is the universe, the whole universe, to see that even for an instant, to realize it, and not simply understand it, allows us to settle in and be at ease in our own boundaryless skin. Or as Hakuin Zenji puts it in his Zazen Wasan song in praise of Zazen, this very body, the body of Buddha, this very body, this very body, just as it is, now, right now, not in the future, and not simply when we realize it. What does this mean? Of what use is it? And why don't we know it? In short, if it's true, then why do we even have to practice? Why don't we just know it from the start? There's the rub. If that's what we are, why don't we know it? It plagued young Dogen, giving him no peace. He was not a happy bird. How many of us are? Isn't this in fact why we begin to practice? Wait a minute, we may think, I'm supposed to be a Buddha. All beings are Buddha. Wonder of wonder, all beings are Buddha, fully endowed with all wisdom, all compassion, is what the Buddha is said to have spontaneously exclaimed upon his complete awakening. Complete awakening. But I have no idea what he was talking about. From an absolute perspective, if for argument's sake we can tease things apart into absolute and relative, no one is fundamentally less than a Shakyamuni. That is the essence of Buddhist teaching. Just as we are each of us, each being, even a dog, Buddha. So why don't we know it? Feel it. We may know shame, guilt, fear, and inadequacy. Conversely, we may get caught by an overly confident ego or by a stridently defensive one, which form a pair. This is the irritating grit under the hard shell of our ego oyster that may in time produce our pearl. Why? 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 Why don't we know who or what we really are? How? How are we just as we are, stuck as we are, limited as we are, Buddhas? This grit works on us without seats or pause, ultimately, if we accept the work it demands, to our great benefit. Knowing that all beings are Buddha intellectually as a belief read in a book or heard in a talk does not give us peace. In fact, it might do the opposite. It might motivate us to try. And really understand what those words mean, or it might poison us. So I'm a Buddha. Well, then I can do as I please. I'm free. And there we go. adding another head to the one we already have, making the reality those words point to even more distant than at the start. The little parrot was a happy bird. Lifetimes of practice may lie beneath that simple statement. What can we do to be happy birds? Should we ignore difficulties? Shut our eyes and ears to the sorrows, conflicts, and issues of our lives and times? Does it mean wearing rose-colored glasses? Does it mean simply accepting whatever happens? The little parrot doesn't think so. She smells smoke, and she responds, crying out her warning, "Fire, fire, run to the river!" Then flapping her wings, she flies away. Right, right, as the old teachers say, if you can be free of danger, do what you need to get free. Don't sit there moaning over your sad state, rehearsing what ifs, and let's accept, too, that being present in some situations is going to mean get going, get out of there. The Buddha does just that in the wise quail, Jataka, when quarreling fellow quails put the whole flock at risk. So he moves the flock away, being present, being awake in our lives and in our practice means respond. In case number 14 in Hekiganroku, or Blue Cliff Record, a monk asked Yunmen, great teacher, what is the teaching which Shakyamuni preached throughout his life, that is, from beginning to end, all the time? What is the core, the highest, the most central teaching? Or what is the meaning of Buddhism? Or what is the ultimate meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West? These are all versions of this one central question. And what is Yunmen's answer? One preaching in response. That's it. Bingo. Kapla Roshi used to say that being a Buddhist doesn't mean making like a Buddha. That is, if we're at a party, sitting quietly in a corner with legs folded, wearing a halo, looking wise and kind and maintaining a half smile on our face, we're acting like Buddhas. But that's not being a Buddhist. He'd say when you're at a party, you get up and dance, you eat hors d'oeuvres and talk up a storm. You respond completely to the time, place, and circumstance. In short, when sad things happen, you're going to cry. When joyous things happen, you'll laugh. When infuriating things happen, you might even get angry, which seems to be a New Age Buddhist no-no. But can holding to a serenely smiling calm in the face of infuriating malfeasance, downright lies, outright cruelty, or persistent shallowness be wise? Then again, hold on. If you can breathe deeply, inhale, let it out, and try to improve the situation without being whirled down the drain, you may be onto something spiritually impressive. Please, be my teacher. Responses, even like those of dancing at a party, can, of course, become habitual and rote. Then they carry us along not on great wings, but on the old wave of self-preservation and self-centeredness. Yet trying to force ourselves beyond self-concern, attempting to pull ourselves up to a higher life by our bootstraps, or whipping ourselves into a frenzy of commitment, doesn't seem to work. Try. See if you can. I don't think the effort can last. One step or two, and down we tumble. And that's all she wrote for now. Knowing there is always more on the Dharma path, that wherever we are is both it and simultaneously not yet enough, gives rise to continuous practice, what Zen Master Dogen called sustained exertion, the exertion that the Buddha to be embodies in his Jataka tales. It is the practice of paying attention to the count, the breath, the koan, shifting attention from or dropping attention from the self and allowing or suffering, as in Jesus' suffer the little children to come unto me, to 10,000 things to enter and claim us, to wipe a sense of a separate self completely away, Then there's just the vroom of the car passing in the night, the caw of the crow calling from the treetops. Zen teaches us that the way to reach our highest potential comes not by pushing ourselves forward to become one with the 10,000 things, but by getting out of the way and letting the 10,000 things be us, enter us, confirm us, wipe us away, and take their rightful place as us, and so enlighten us. That is, allow us to be truly intimate, or make us intimates, initiates. This is another way of saying no longer living dualistically with something called me in here and everyone and everything else out there. This may be Zen Master Dogen's central point. When we push forward with the self to confirm the 10,000 things, it is called delusion. When the 10,000 things step in and illumine us, confirming the self as they've been doing from the very beginning, and we realize it, it is called enlightenment. The Enlightenment poem of the famous layman Pong of Tang era China goes like this. People of the 10 directions are of the one same assembly. Each and every one learns Wu Wei, that is, not doing, which means, I'm just extrapolating here, effortless, purposeless action in accord with the Tao, or the realization, or the realization of the unconditioned. Then he goes on. This is the very place to select Buddha, that is, right where he is at his teachers, the great Matsu. Now he continues. Empty-minded, having passed the exam, I return. Empty-minded, not full of thoughts. He's saying, I've come home to nothing. With nothing. There is no way not to pass the teacher's challenge, whatever it might be. Or as Kuei-shan in case number 40 in the Wumen Quan, or Mumen Khan's Gateless Barrier, innate intimacy can be revealed quite simply. Here's the case, number 40. When Kuei-shan was studying under Baichang, he worked as the cook at the monastery. Baichang wanted to choose a founding teacher from Mount Takwei. He summoned the head monk and the rest of the disciples and told them that an exceptional person should go there. Then he took a water bottle, set it on the floor, and said, "Don't call this a water bottle. What would you call it?" The head monk said, "It can't be called a wooden clog." Baichang then asked Kuei-shan his opinion. Kuei-shan kicked over the water bottle and walked out. Baichang laughed and said, "The head monk loses." Kuei-shan thereupon was made the founding teacher of Mount Kuei. Or suddenly, drops of water fall onto a raging fire. Compassion isn't sentiment. It's action. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva rides an elephant. Nothing can stop him or her on this determined, steady mount. It is our nature to be brave parrots. It is our nature to see possibilities and act on them. How many great quotes, even in pop psychology books, hit the note that it is not the things we try and fail at that later torment us, but the things we might have done that we didn't. The undone things we might have done that we don't. The risks not taken. The adventures not grasped add up, making us turn and twist in the night. The poems we didn't write. Paintings we didn't paint. Loving words left unspoken. Journeys not taken. And kind deeds not done disturb our sleep. Through practice, we start to understand the nature of the self by paying attention to it so well that it no longer looms as such a monumental thing. Dogen says finally that to study the self is to forget the self. This path is not one of gaining new Buddhist beliefs. but of exploring, going deeper into what we ourselves are now. Whatever milestones we may have passed, there are others to come if we keep going. The Buddhist formula, awake, rejoice, doesn't mean we gain a thing. It means simply getting, as in, aha, I get it, what we already have. And then not blocking the doings that arise from the knowledge of who and what we are, or rather, of who and what we aren't, as it means not stopping with small initial gains or insights. The little parrot has her own karmically hard-won wings. With them, she can fly to safety. There's the river. Fire can't cross water. She is going to be okay. She knows it, we know it. She could stop there and be safe. But what of others? What of trees and animals already surrounded by flames? There's the rub for one with eyes open. When the Buddha was a banyan deer, that thought kept him from taking the freedom he'd been granted and running off with it. He was tested again and again. Leave? No, I can't. Not until the other herd is free. Leave? No, I can't. Not until all the animals are free. Leave? Not till the birds and fish are safe too. Safe too. Only then can I be free. In the hungry tigress Jataka, the Buddha as Prince Mahasattva, great being, might have walked past the starving tigress and her cubs. Only he couldn't. Sariputra couldn't either when he saw the starving child who was become the great elder, Tisalosaka. Instead, he stopped and brought him into the order. As a hare, the Bodhisattva saw a starving beggar asking for food and in response leapt into the fire to become that food. He couldn't just walk on by. Neither can the Bodhisattva as the little parrot just fly to her place of personal safety. She thinks, though I'm just a bird, I see a way to help. How then could I just fly on and abandon my friends and see our home destroyed? Perhaps she is recalling the words of Seng Zan in verses on the faith mind. When picking and choosing are cast aside, the way stands clear and undisguised. Indeed, Indeed, there is no ground left for her for any such picking or choosing. Everything has been taken. Home, security, friends, trees, air, all is smoke and fire. And then when all is gone, she sees. What does the parrot see that makes the way stand clear and undisguised? Because of her gift, from up high she sees that all is connected. River, mountains, trees, the great earth itself are spread below, without boundaries or separation. From up high, one also sees far. But she sees beyond even that, beyond the gift itself. For even such seeing from a height is still limited. What she sees is that the forest is herself. Better, what she sees is that no self is forest. And this seeing or no seeing is transformative. It is no longer a concept of seeing, a concept of connection. The mind of the Bodhisattva is awakened, and there is just seeing, just doing. What there isn't is wobbling, thinking, holding back and speculating. The ancient grit of me and my is gone, entirely gone. This is the heart of the Prajnaparamita wisdom. The Prajnaparamita, this is the heart, rather, of the heart of perfect wisdom, the Prajnaparamita Hridaya. Where is that other shore? How far did we think we'd have to fly to cross the anciently flowing stream? Where did we think we'd have to go? Right where we are is where we do the practice of letting self-centeredness go. How do we accomplish this? We focus on this count. This breath, this koan, that's it. That's what it comes down to. Simple, yet hard to do. We wander. Our attention strays, and we stray from it into another kind of gone floating downstream, away from the present moment into our dreams, losing all those possibilities, evading all those responsibilities. But the little parrot stays steady. Having intimately touched the other shore, she puts together a vivid, original scenario, making spontaneous and brilliant use of her circumstance, wings, fire, river. She forms a new story. This story is the story of the vow of the Bodhisattva, and it is told in action, not words. The vow she, the Bodhisattva, the Buddha to be, has been working on for countless lifetimes, is already the deepest reality of our mind, of her mind, rather. In actuality, it is already the reality of every mind, yours and mine. The great vow to save the many beings can be worked on and embodied because it is already who we are. That's the paradox Dogen agonized over. Why did all the sages of the past have to work hard to realize enlightenment if Buddha nature is already who we are? He struggled on until the bottom fell out and body and mind dropped away. Like an actor struggling through years of obscurity in small towns and bit parts who suddenly becomes famous overnight, there it is. Because of enlightened nature, because of our primal vow mind, we can work on realizing enlightened nature and experiencing innate vow mind. This vow carries the parrot over the flames of her burning world on its great wide wings. It carries us forward in our practice, experiencing or counting breaths, realizing intimacy with Mu or with any koan. Bodhisattvas don't make escaping from the flames of this world the point of their practice. They live in the middle of the stream, flying daily over the burning forest, dipping every day into the cool waters of emptiness. They don't give up, and they don't settle down saying, "That's enough, I'll build my comfy nest here." They keep bringing what they can, a little talent, a little insight, a little water, as few and as tiny as those drops may be. How each drop sparkles. There it is. There it is. How cool and refreshing. And then it too is gone. Yet, says this old story, if we keep going, keep flying, keep practicing, strange things that logic could never predict, can happen. Who, after all, is the Bodhisattva? Is the story just a recounting of an ancient exploit, part of the mythic history of Shakyamuni's route to Buddhahood? Please, look again. Look carefully. The whole beauty of Zen lies in this question of who. Our world is burning. Trees, animals, ecosystems, social safety nets are being engulfed. This is not an old tale. We're not inspecting our navels, not trying to simply calm our own distress. The world is on fire. And the causes are exactly as the Buddha said 2,500 years ago: greed, anger, and ignorance of our own nature. Oh, brave parrots, do you love your forest? If so, flap your wings, find a way to your river, and do not give up. When the chips are down and the last hand has been played, sometimes the inexplicable occurs. A light never seen on land or sea shines, a god descends, a cloud bursts, tears fall. Suddenly everything is whole and well. We become what we are, have always been, and then we can really get to work. For in the real world, not the world of story, it's not so simple. In stories, the archetype is clear. Hard work and persistence pay off and can have mysteriously wonderful effects. But in our daily reality, things are more complex. In our world, the raging fires relight and start to burn anew each day. The commitment to put out these fires, too, must be renewed each day. The reality the story can only point to is that of daily practice, daily effort, daily success, daily surprise, daily healing, daily failure, daily fire. Zen Master Hakuin wrote, "The practice of Zen is like making a fire by friction. The essential thing as you rub wood against stone is to apply continuous all-out effort. If you stop when you see the first trace of smoke, you'll never get even a flicker of fire, though you might rub away for 3 long kalpas. Only a few hundred yards from here, where he lived, there is a beach. Suppose that someone is bothered because he has never experienced the taste of seawater and decides to sample it for himself. He sets out for the beach, but before he's gone 100 paces, he stops and comes back. Then he starts out again, but this time he returns after he's taken only 10 steps. He will never know the taste of seawater that way, will he? But if he keeps going straight ahead without turning back, it doesn't even matter if he lives far inland in a landlocked province. He will still eventually reach the sea. Then, by dipping his finger in the water and tasting it, he will know in an instant what seawater tastes like the world over, because it, of course, is the same everywhere. In India, China, the great Southern Sea, or the great Northern Sea. Hakuin is talking about our own mind. He's talking about the realization of our own mind. He's talking about intimacy with all things. He's talking about what we call enlightenment. If you keep going, eventually you reach the sea. This is the process of actual daily practice. We keep at it, at work, at play, while living our own uniquely challenging lives. The river is never far away, but neither is the burning forest. Time waits for no one. Fly on, brave parrots.